You are on.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anjana Desai, and today I'm going to be presenting to you JunTrax. So a little bit about myself. I've been in the ERP space for over 20 years. I've worked with PeopleSoft applications, both as a full-time employee as well as a consultant. So with that knowledge, I started the company in, so I started the company in 2016, and how I came about this is really, we had a client. He was an SME, a company that was around 50 employees at the time, and they were looking at applications that they wanted to run all of their companies worldwide. So they had an office in USA, Netherlands, and India, and they wanted to run all of their offices on one platform. And I actually helped them find something that was suitable, but nothing really caught their fancy. So that's basically how the journey started. And then between 2017 and 2019, I built a team out in Bangalore, India, and we developed this product. There was basically 9 business tools in one. And in 2019, we implemented, so earlier on this year, we implemented on the client, the same client. Now there are 110 employees. And as you can see, one great thing was we had access to them throughout this whole development process. So we would, every single iteration, we would be getting validations from their validations from them in terms of and they helped with the testing and all of that. And they gave us tremendous feedback, which helped us really design a very custom fit application for an SME. So that was our journey, and today we're basically building traction one client at a time. We are I've been back and forth to Bangalore, and we also started working on our second version of the product to just with the feedback that we have been getting, we're putting in more modern technologies like AI and scanning capabilities and all of that other fun stuff. So the idea is to really hone this product and build it to make it so efficient that SMEs can really just get a state-of-the-art system. So that's basically our goal. So this is what the general process looked like for SMEs. It was, some people were on different things, were on different Excel spreadsheets. Some people had a certain software that they were implementing, and data analytics were non-existent other than them having to build their own via either Excel or some sort of tool. So that's basically what this process looked like. And these were main problems that SMEs were having, especially with SMEs with multiple offices worldwide. They wanted one single application where they wanted to run, instead of spending, money on 3 ERP systems, they wanted one ERP system where they could see everything and run everything. And the main purpose of that really is to drive analytics, right? If you want to get analytics worldwide, how do you do that? The only way to do that singly is if you had all your data in one place. So that's basically was the key problems. And one of them, the other one was the cost-effective solution. Things that were very integrated out there were very expensive. And for small companies, putting that kind of money towards an automated solution, it was usually a trade-off. So that was one of the key issue. And so this is what we created. We created an integrated solution with, employee management, time, leave management, reports and data analytics, document repository, invoice and expense management, asset, vendor management, client and projects management, and the multi-location capability. This is what our screens look like. And one of the features that we wanted to present was the capability of having one dashboard for you, meaning that, see, the role of a CEO and what he would be doing in an organization differs from what an HR admin would do or what a manager would do. So we had specific dashboards for specific roles, and those were dependent on permission. So these cards would show up based on what function they held within the organization. So am I going too fast? Is this good?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay, great. Okay, so as I was saying, so we had, so the CEO would really be interested in knowing what his cash flow looks like, whether his invoices were, when are they due or when are they paid, more towards the money aspects, right? An employee and an applicant had two different functions. One was, an applicant coming onto a company, they would be able to engage with the employer a lot quicker by, being able to put all their information in. And that also streamlined the onboarding process. And for an employee to basically stay in touch with, they have their own portal, so all of these situations where, okay, I'm going to apply for leave, then email the manager comes back, okay, you can go on leave, and that, constant questions about, oh, how much is my leave balance, etc. Things like that were very, very cumbersome. So having an employee manager communication via a portal of their own kind of just address those deficiencies. So so this is the screenshots that you'll see, but I'd like to show you the product. So I'm going to move over to that right now and have log on. So basically, this is a login screen, and I'm going to log in as a local admin. Well, actually, let me see. So I'll log in as a super admin. So super admin means this is somebody who is the CEO of a company or an executive who has access to everything in the organization. So Chapman Jenner, he's a super admin. He's an employee also of his own company. So he's got his own dashboard, which is similar to every single other employee. So generally, as a CEO, I would probably not need to do any of this, but it's available for him or her. So this is what the dashboard for a CEO would look like, or a super admin. They have everything. So if you are managing offices in, let's say in this case, London, Palo Alto, and Utrecht, which is in Netherlands, that he could see every single employee here. Okay, so if, for instance, he wants to take a look at his employee in London, the idea is you can also get a picture. I haven't attached it here, but the picture is also there. So that was the other thing, is how do you really engage with an employee? What do they look like? What are their other, aspects, information, right? This is one way, is that you have an actual face that you can actually see. And all of this important, this badges information, this is the employee information, his address, his contact. Unfortunately, this one I haven't picked out, but so his direct deposit here. Let me just pull up somebody that I know that I have. Okay, so this Clive is an employee in the US, and he's got his badge. when it was issued. And we also have the capability of putting in client badges for people who are working on a client site. So that's also there. You can add that. Then you have the personal information, his address, the contact information, his bank account information, and he can actually, from the employee side, he can put his signature, so you can even verify his signature. His basic job transactions, it allows you to basically see all his job related information. And you can actually do a data change of, let's say if he was having a employee, if he was having a job title change or etc. and something like that, you can actually make the changes over here, and it would track them based, historically effective dated. Also, you could change permission, give him additional permission. Let's say if you want to make him a manager or something like that, you can do that. He can be transferred through a department, office, or location. You could put him on LOA or PLOA, and you can actually terminate him as well. So all these functions are here. The compensation information, you can actually change his pay here. Also, historically, it'll capture all the information. Employment information, his entitlements and leaves. So it gives all the balances right out here. And benefits, what kind of benefits he's enrolled in. You've got all his dependent and beneficiary information here. Also, what assets he's currently with him. And I'll get into all this other stuff, how all this comes together from the dashboard. He has his original application information that he filled out, his references, his education, and I think you get the drift, his work experience, certifications, and any forms that he had to fill out during his hiring process is here. Any passport, visa information, and we have this checklist. So these checklists is something that you can create, and it's a custom checklist you can build in your setup, and that allows you to kind of tailor it to whatever your process is. So these are, let's say, the checklist. These are the 4 things that I need for a new hire. So this allows you to track the status of where that is, and these statuses are also customizable, so you could actually put in as many statuses as you want.
Anjana, this is Nova. If you don't mind, may I ask? So there is a question that came up here about whether or not you have workflows in terms of going through this process. In other words, most systems would have some like a workflow process that I could simply guide either myself or a manager through the process. Does that exist in this?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So our workflow process starts. So that I'll get into that actually right now. So the workflow process starts like this. Is the first thing that's going to happen is your office setup, right? So your office setup is once you add an office, it will go through a wizard that'll allow you to go through the whole setup. Okay, so that is basically, there's a wizard that will, let me just show you. Okay, so it will actually guide you through different steps okay, so I think it just happens the first time. I think I have to fill out all the information. But what the overall thing is, it will allow you to put in all your office information, your hire information, then it will allow you to set up all your grades, pay groups, all of this information, and you can add the locations, whatever that you have. And that is basically the overall office setup. Once the office is set up, you can add your employees. And here would be the employee, where you would add your employee. Once that you add your employee, let's see. So Stephanie Johnson, you can add her and this would be the workflow process. So she will get an email. Let's say there are two ways of doing this. If you choose to allow your applicant to get on board before they actually join, then you can actually send them an email in advance, and they will be able to fill all of this information out, because this would be information that they can fill out themselves, and that will save you time during the onboarding process. So what happens in terms of the workflow is that process starts from the applicant, and if you don't want to do it beforehand, you can do it on the day they actually join and give them the access at that time, and then they can fill all this stuff in, and then the checklist, and you would actually put in the employee number. Let's say in this side it is custom one, and here is the workflow, and then you'll be able to put in your permissions that you want to give this person, the department you want to put them in, and then it will take you through the whole process, and then you can activate the employee. So so let's say that in between you decided, you know what, I don't have all the information, I'm gonna pause the hiring process. So then he gets onto this card, and you'll be able to see where he's at, and then you can actually, once you have all the information, you can complete and activate the employee. And once you activate the employee, they show up on Manage Employees. Does that make sense?
It does. So, Anjana, I'm going to ask a question, and I certainly would love the TRC group to either say yay or nay to this. So, you mentioned a global system. So, the biggest thing I would ask is this truly global? Is it truly, am I dealing with multilingual, possibly different currencies and so on, and compensation modules? So that's number one. Number two is going back to the fact that you're really talking about an ERP. If I were the business owner, I would ask you, where do I start to build this thing? In other words, I think most of the people in this crowd are certainly very familiar with the HR system, and I think you've done a really good job of hitting all the what I call the truly basics of what we need. And I suspect these are employees and contractors having roughly the same kind of information. But I'm curious, would the audience like to see kind of more of a step back and up a level about how the ERP gets set up in terms of the interrelation of all the modules, or do we want to stay at this level? And I'm asking simply because I want to make sure that everybody's getting out of this what they would like. So I'll just open up.
This is Jason. I'm going to jump right in. So,
sure.
One of the things I would like to see, especially since when I looked at the preview for this presentation that you sent out, and it talks about managing non-employees, and as we call them, one of the facets I would like to see is, what does the administration of that look like for the people who need to administrate those non-employees? So I'll give you a case example. Here at Toshiba, we have an on-site temp agency, and they manage all of their employees in our system. And so they have a separate view. It's branded somewhat differently. You have some information that's shared, safety regulations and things like that on campus, but then there's some things that are specific to their corporation and their relationship. And I would like to see maybe more of that aspect of it, because it's something our current system does not do very well.
Okay, so all right, so let me address two things. One is regarding the multilingual multi-currency. So multilingual we have not put in yet. That's coming in our next release. But multi-currency we are using, and and the dates and all of that is formatted. So basically in the settings itself, you can actually specify the country. And once you basically set up the office and you put in the country, it automatically puts this settings for you. You can actually modify it if you need to, but the basic settings are already there. So this is what allows you to drive the country-specific things. And again, regarding workflow and additional the interactions, we've got notifications and things set up that will allow you to get notifications on several different aspects of the system. So that's one thing. And the second thing regarding employees, you talked about the different types of employees and how they interact, correct? So it allows you to, the job information allows you to put in the different employee types. So if you are a contractor and they're being invoiced, then you would select non-payroll, and then you would actually, you've got all of these types of different employees that you can put in, and you have this option pay through payroll, and that gives you the capability to bring them into your payroll. We have currently for USA, we have a send to payroll file. So those would be addressed in that way. And those that are being invoiced, you can actually, handle the payment through the invoicing system. Does that answer the question?
So yeah, I'll kind of pose the question around the perspective that, so if I have, normally contractors are paid out of accounts payable. Are
Yes.
you suggesting that the contractors are paid in that same manner, but they're tracked in the HR system, and it's in a sense it's already integrated? I don't have to worry about sending them off to AP.
Right. So basically what would happen is the idea is, the core of a system is the employees, whether they're your workforce rather. So it's your employees, your contractors, your, and a combination. Some can be on W-2, some can be on a 1099. So whatever the tax status is. So we put all the employees as part of your system, and then from there we've got the invoicing module that allows you to set up all your invoices and do the billing, creating the invoices and doing that from here. So we've got the whole infrastructure in place and connected, so the idea is for everybody to kind of work off this one platform and manage your whole office, whether they're full-time employees, part-time employees, contractors, interns, whatever have you, from one place.
So I have a follow-up question to that. Sorry, Jason.
Go ahead.
The thing I was asking about is more of a branding look feel. So, we manage multiple operating companies, some called Toshiba, some not called Toshiba, some called Mitsubishi. Do you have the ability to control kind of the look, feel, and have all that stuff occur dynamically? So when an employee moves from one organization to another, they see everything corresponding to that, specifically in a global workforce and that has high mobility.
Okay.
And actually, before you answer that, I apologize. So, Jason, on that same basis, I'd like to extend that question, if you don't mind, Anjana. So, what strikes me in here is that I see an ERP, but I'm not sure exactly what drives it. In other words, maybe starting at the top, and I hate to jump into the feedback section, but I would say the graphic you showed us about all the modules is one thing, but I think there's a key perspective I'm looking for, and maybe that would help to answer Jason's question. How do I set this thing up so that I am creating a company, but to Jason's point, I may have different entities within that, maybe different company names, whatever it is, different FEINs or whatever we want to call them. What is driving this system? Because we have seen organizational structure systems for years. We've now seen the new employee-centric system. I have not been exposed to ERPs, so I'd love to see if you have managed to breach or or overpower this whole thing about, is it organizationally driven, people driven, or what is it in the ERP sense? That's what's missing in my mind, and I think that would probably go a long ways to explain to somebody looking at your system as a whole.
Okay,
where
so
do I
maybe
really begin? If that makes sense.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So no. Maybe what I'll do is I'll log in using the local admin, so you can see this a little bit more. Visualize it better. So basically, to answer your question first is what drives this? What is the basic? The first thing is you have to set up your organization, and it is set up office specific. So basically what you would do is you would set up your headquarters first, and then based on the other locations that you have, whether it's within the entity, let's say you have, so how we've divided is it's based on country. Okay, so if you have a company that is in the USA and that is where your headquarters are, then you would set that up first, and then let's say you have a office in New York, right? You're set up in California, but you have an office in New York, so that would be considered a location. Okay, but let's say you have and the reason for that is your headquarters or the country has several right here, as we're putting in the registration IDs, right? You've got your EIN. Here we've got your federal tax ID number, you've got your state corporation ID number, you've got your business local tax ID number. So all of those registrations, wherever the registrations are happening, that allows you, wherever your federal tax ID number is held, that identifies the particular entity. So if you've got multiple federal tax ID numbers, like for instance in India, when we register, it's called a TIN. So that's another ID registration process. So that would be another office. That is basically how the whole structure is set up. And based on each office, you would have people being hired into that either location or the headquarters. So that's how the whole structure works. And let's say you have multiple, okay, let's say you have multiple people, and you talked about the mobility, right? Like, let's say if you had somebody who was working in the UK, now is going to be transferred to the United States, then you can actually go in and actually do the transfer. And when you do the transfer, that person, you can do an office transfer and move them to a different office right here, and whatever the location is, within that office. So that's when you do that, and the effective date of that happens, it transfers that person's. It will initiate. He will be like a new hire in that second office, but the information that he had in the first office will stay. So does that kind of answer what you're asking?
This is
It
Mike.
does for me. And Jason, I don't know if that answered yours.
This is Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is that while your system is organized primarily around location, if we had an organization where we had divisions spread throughout multiple locations, it sounds like we'd have to set up a record for each of those divisions in each of the location that they have offices in. Is that correct?
So a division would be almost like a department.
Okay.
So in our structure, we have the topmost is an office, which is at the entity level, the establishment level, if you wish. And then we have the locations, and then we've got departments. So if you had divisions, How different is your division and department?
It's drastically different in most organizations, right? So from an organizational structure perspective, it just seems like you're missing maybe 3 or 4 data points that are needed to support really a large scale organization or on a global scale. You know, you're going to have entities, and on top of your company entity, then you're going to have maybe divisions within that company, and then in today's world, we're seeing a whole lot, you know, across the board of corporate entities that extend outside the company boundary. So, you know, as companies have implemented things like HR and finance and IT shared services, you have an IT department or an IT division that will span across multiple operational companies through multiple divisions within each one of those companies, and multiple, but then it might be multiple departments, or it might be the same department.
Okay, so you're saying the division can span globally?
It can.
Okay. So no.
So as an example, the Toshiba Industrial Division that makes, you know, motors and drives, we have, you know, groups in all of our different operating companies globally, but then we have the Toshiba IT organization is a global entity. So that division is global in itself, whereas you know, our industrial group or our manufacturing operations exists at a company by company FEIN level.
Okay, so you could actually set that division up as an office itself.
But then how would the reporting go into each individual company? So how would I see that that person is in the IT in your world office, and they're at what at within what company, and who is paying them, what bank account, what FEIN is paying them, what tax jurisdiction do they belong to? You see where I'm going. When you get granular in the details, it becomes complex.
Yes, so I see your point there. Okay, so I'll make a note of this. I think we may have to think about how we would add that into our current system. But when we looked at this, we looked at I looked at several organizations that were global and that were within 200 employee and not very very complex structures. So this is what we kind of wanted to start off with. And, you know, as we get more insights, like this is a very excellent example. So this is something that we would definitely, take under.
Yeah, my point is, I mean, I get that your target market is a small business, and I think that's fantastic. But I think that if you consider those options now, it's a whole lot easier to build that into your infrastructure now than to try and convert small business minded product to a corporate
larger
scale.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Or the easier answer is we don't service that large market, but that's a choice that I'll have to make.
No, the thing is, see, what happens with this is our first release, so we wanted to get the core foundation correct, and as we get insights and different use cases, we can build into this, and we've got a team that is constantly adding stuff and building, and we're already working on our version 2 of the same product. So that's our goal is just to get, at this point, as many diverse customers as we can, so that we can actually get these kind of insights. So no, I do appreciate it.
Good. Well, thank you. Like I say, I told you were going to have a diverse group out there, so there we go. Yeah, we're about the halfway mark. I'll leave it to the crowd again. To any particular areas you want to see? Do you want to see outside of HR a little bit? Maybe some. Did I notice that you had a CRM type of perspective as well? I was curious how that looked for a small business.
The CRM really is more from a sales, like from the time, not to a lead generation, but from a sending out quotes, POs, invoices, that perspective. And I can definitely get into that. I will just like to kind of just highlight the other aspects where you can actually track. Let's see, let me just log in as.
And again, I don't want to dominate the conversation. If anybody would like to say anything particular, please speak up. We're very happy to accommodate you.
Oh, this is Aurel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. I would like to see reporting when you get a chance. I'm curious as to how that works.
Sure. Okay. All right.
Good question. Thank you.
So here's the reports. So we've got our basic reports like your total compensation. You can pick your it'll generate a report of all your employees that are active, and you can basically, let's see where, you can download this into Excel.
Okay. Now, can you create custom ad hoc reports as well?
Yes.
Okay.
It's this ad hoc report, I'll be very honest with you, is we've done like the basics. Okay, we haven't done a lot of that, but basically you can pull whatever you want from here. And you can put in okay. But this is, I haven't really, we haven't really worked on this a lot, right? This is the last thing to go in. So, but we have the functionality to actually put in, you can see. Okay, sorry about this. I don't know. I didn't test this out in demo. It's still in dev, so my apologies. But yes, to answer your question, we do have this custom feature, which will allow you to generate reports through the different, so our goal is to kind of bring in all the different, data points from employee assets, leaves, timesheets, all of that. And then you'll be able to generate report, like basically a view, and then pulling the data from there and then generating the reports. So the idea is what our focus was really to kind of get all the data on the dashboard as much as possible. So we started with that first, and then so if you can see, like in different areas now going into sales, we are showing things more on the dashboard, so you could get insights relatively quickly.
Okay. Excuse me, is that dashboard drillable?
No, it's not drillable, but it just gives you like whatever this is basically what your the idea was to get what your cash flow looks like now and what it's going to be looking like as we move forward. So it's not drillable. It doesn't go down to it's not yet.
Can you filter it? I mean, is there a place where you can maybe click on something and filter to maybe a specific department or work group?
No, for that, for that you would actually just go into the report and find the particular invoice or the information that you need that way.
Actually, that's great. So this has a background report, and you have access to that report to be able to see what's being represented on the dashboard.
Yes. So the idea of the dashboard was just to give like the CEO or an executive of a company just a view of exactly what's going on. And then you can go down to, let's say, your invoices and see like, okay, these are all the invoices and this is what's been paid, what's been pending. Then you can go in and actually take care of putting in the payment, emailing the invoice, so forth. So that was the whole idea of the sales and purchases. So so now to address the sales and purchases part, here you could put in all your item entries of whatever, whether it's your service company or whether you're a product company. You can just put in your item master and then put in all your clients, and then here you could generate quotations. So let's say if you're sending a quotation to somebody, you can generate the quotation here. Then the purchase order will be something that will be given to you, and you can manage that. So you can, for each purchase order, you can create an invoice and send it for each purchase order. Let's say if you have a purchase order that's $100,000 and you have multiple invoices against that, then this actually keeps track of it. You can create multiple invoices, and it will allow you to manage that over the whole length of the purchase order. And let's see.
So Anjana, I may have missed this. This is Nov. Did you have a budgeting system within the context of your ERP as well?
So a budgeting system, no, we don't. The way we have managed it is from a project standpoint is like we have like if for a lot of companies, like service oriented companies, they function on more project based on projects, right? So here is, we have the project, the cost, and you can actually manage the whole project. Again, here, your billables, like what is, I know the colors are a little sharp, but you can, who's working on this particular project, how much are you billing for them, how much are you paying them, and this is what your budget was, and this is how much you've billed. So this gives you kind of an idea of whether you're over or under your total P&L and earnings per employee. So this is a great tool for service oriented companies to kind of see what their billables look like per employees and per project.
This, Paul, again, your total pay consists of the wage being paid?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Total payroll cost. Okay.
Yes. And here is the purchases. So purchases is, again, this is all the vendors that you are going to be paying. And these are all the purchase orders. And so you can actually, this is built around expenses. So these are expenses you can create. They can be tied to a purchase order, they can be tied to a quotation, or they can just be a general expense that you put in, and then you generate the expense, and then you actually book the payment. And based on that, you can track, what expenses that you have and what has been paid. So this kind of keeps you a little organized in terms of what's paid and what's pending. And it also allows you to, the expense to tie to a purchase order or quotation, or both. So it's kind of, a very, very integrated, yet it allows you to, manage everything, your sales and your purchases, so that you can generate, eventually you can get a visual of what your P&L looks like. And that was what you saw on the dashboard on this. So overall, it's not a full accounting system like QuickBooks, but it gives you the capability of putting in all your expenses, putting in all your invoices, your expenses, your invoices, your purchase orders, all of that, tracking everything, and seeing where you are at in one place. And that was the goal. And right now, I'm telling you, the client, our client that we had, they love this. The projects and the sales and purchases are something that they're using a lot.
So, Anjana, I know that you mentioned at the start that you were going to talk a little bit about the pricing and, if you will, a little bit about incentive for this group. If
Yes.
you don't mind moving to that, because I do want to provide the feedback too, and I'll make a request of you at the end of this whole thing, but we'll go from there. So go ahead, if you don't mind, maybe moving to the pricing, unless anyone else has got a very particular system-related question. If not, go for it.
Okay, great. And one of the things that I'd like to add is that, generally during these demos that I've had several, so what I always find is we give, if somebody wants to use the system out and try it, because that's really when you really get into the nooks and crannies, right? You really get the feel of the system once you actually learn, and you'll see that setting up the system is very easy. Our goal was to make it very user friendly. So this is something that I'm open to. If anybody wants to try it out, it's not a problem. Just let me know. I'll be happy to either spin you off a server, or you can just log into our test environment. Not a problem. So okay, so these are the incentives that we have. Like I mentioned in my demo, is it's a simple automated management system without the high cost. It runs your worldwide offices on one system, and the role-based custom dashboards for everyone in your organization. And it's one application delivers all your data in one place. So you'll actually see that as you use it. And we at JunTrax, we're using it for our own small startup. So okay, so the incentives that we're offering is it's free for up to 15 employees for 1 year. The only reason we say 1 year is because we usually see that there's going to be growth from you'll move from 15 to 20 or whatever. But right now, it's the incentive is basically if you're under 15 or under, it's free. The first 3 months are free trial, so you can try it out and see if you like it. This flexible, we also have a flexible pricing model for more than 15 employees, and I'm going to share that with you now. So basically, I wanted a very, because for all early adopters, we wanted a very flexible and affordable pricing model. So it's $3 per employee. Okay, and you get the whole system. That's the whole office setup, the employee management, leave management, timesheets, assets, sales, purchases, projects, client vendor setup, reports, and the document tool, which I wasn't able to demonstrate, but we have the ability to create offer letters and things like that. So using a template, and then you can just generate similar to like a Word mail merge. We have a document tool set up like that. So yeah, so this is the pricing. We just have a base price if you're between 15 and 20 of $20 a year, of just for for our server cost and stuff like that. But on top of that, it's just $3 per employee per month. And if you are going on the annual subscription, then there's a discount as well built into that. So I know I don't think I provided this in the PowerPoint, but I'd be happy to share this as well if anybody's interested in.
Yeah, and I would say, if you don't mind, just send me either a new deck that's got that on the back end, and I'll send it out to the group.
Sure.
Let me turn to the audience. We've got about 10 minutes left. I want to ask a couple of things, but let me ask anyone questions, feedback, perspective, anything you want to give. We have the privilege of seeing this as probably one of the early adopters of this system. So we're looking at something that we hope to see maybe in a couple of months down the road that's continues to grow with lots more customers and features. But any questions, perspectives you want to share with Anjana?
This is Paul. I was curious. I saw on one of the slides there was a button for payroll. You may have said this, and I came in late. I apologize if that's the case. But is there some sort of a payroll interface that you have here?
Yes. So our payroll is for US. We have payroll for India set up right now. But for US, we have a center payroll file that we, excuse me. So we have the capability of taking all your data, and so this is our payroll that is set up for India. But we have the capability of sending all your transactions to, let's see, where's the, so based on the monthly payroll, you can, let's see. Okay. Again, data. I don't have enough data, but basically this is the payroll file that goes to the payroll provider. That's what what we're looking for actually is an integration. We want to do an integration with ADP, and we're also we are wanting to talking to Paylocity as well. I just had a conversation with them. So if we can get them on board, we would like to, but one of ADP's requirements is they want 20 paying customers that are currently using ADP before they do an interface. So that's our bottleneck at this point. But until then, we have the capability of generating a payroll file that you can actually send to your payroll provider.
Okay, and the customer could have their own, I guess, interface.
Right. So if they're using a payroll system, we can actually work with you and figure out how to integrate it. Our goal is to build an integration, a payroll module in here, but it's taking a little time because of the complexity for US. So I'm looking into that. Actually, once we get into some sort of solution, then we will be able to build it in completely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or feedback for Anjana? I certainly have a couple things, but I'm the one that always has questions. So, anyone else? So, Anjana, I won't pepper you with these questions because you may or may not have questions. But from a feedback perspective, number one, I think you've built a nice, shall we say, framework, and I think that's really what we're seeing today is a framework that's about to maybe grow over time, the roadmap and so on that you may have to do. I would suggest that in your presentation, perhaps show a little bit of the roadmap, kind of where you are today and what's upcoming, if you will, so people get a much better idea. I know that many clients, when they're trying to assess a system or trying to figure out, this solves my problem today, but it's not going to solve my problems for tomorrow unless you've got something that's going to start to address that. So that would be something I would say is maybe the roadmap to be included in there. Compliance. My question is, it sounds like on the HR side that you are looking to and perhaps already addressing compliance in the global sense and so on, how much of this system, if you will do all of the compliance, both checking and reporting? Because reporting of compliance now is becoming a huge business in its own right. Every time we turn around, there's a new piece of legislation that requires some reporting. Are you addressing that, or are you looking at to do that through a partner?
Yes, so part of it, like, we have the whatever reporting that we were able to get, like the EEO report and the basic HR listings, things like that. The other biggest one is the ability, the FSLA overtime cap. That's another big one. We haven't put that report in yet, but yeah, we will build reports in as we get more insights as to what is needed. And honestly, what happened is, what we did is, from the reporting standpoint, we took the reports that our current client was looking for in building out. So that's the reports we put in first, and the generic reports that usually people need, we've addressed. But yes, we would definitely need to put in more reports for the compliance side.
Gotcha. And I would ask this audience, since we seem to be very well aware of who's doing what, where, and when, if you know of any services that are pretty good on the reporting of compliance-related things, let me know, or let Ansana know, and I'm sure you'd welcome the perspective on where those reports might reside and who's providing them, just from a servicing standpoint. The other thing is the technical platform. So, as you noted, you can export data from the system into an Excel spreadsheet. Are you built on anything particularly? Is it proprietary? Those kind of nature. That's another big question that people seem to want to know. How much flexibility do I have in this system?
So no, so we're built on Meteor.js, which is like Node.js and Blaze.js. So it's an open source platform. So it is not proprietary that way. So in terms of even the reporting framework we have built is on an open source platform, and which we took and we actually coded ourselves and customized. So that's our whole application is basically coded from scratch, but it's built on the tools like Meteor, which provides the framework to do it. So it's JavaScript oriented, and yeah, does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. I think most people are looking for, I put all this stuff in there, but if you can't give me what I need, can I export the data? Because it looks like you have an extensive amount of data.
Yes.
Can I export it elsewhere? And the answer is, it sounds like very much so.
Yeah. And regarding the reporting framework, again, the key is the data, right? So our goal was with version 1 was to build the framework so we can get all the kinds of data in. And then with additional releases, what we're doing is we're actually building the platform so that we can actually put in the features like better reporting, better analytics, better, actually with version 2.0, we're also working on a workflow engine, which will allow you to kind of, the workflow will be a lot, AI driven. And I mean, that's my CTO. He's got all these great ideas. But so those are the things that we are building in during in the pipeline. But we felt that the framework needed to be solid and comprehensive. So we've got that down, and we do have a roadmap going forward.
Perfect. And then the only other thing I would offer up for you, and I'm going to say it this way: this is a system that maybe very, very small businesses would appeal to them. I know it's appealing to me looking at it just at this high level. I suspect in the long run, you might need to hone your message, because it strikes me that really somebody who is a small, shall we say, producer of goods or a producer of services, i.e., invoicing and so on with the services, either bought or people or so on, are the two real key areas you'd want to. I'm not sure that this would be a great retail system per se, or an ERP for a small retail business. So I think you might want to find the real strong niche that you hit now.
Yes.
So it's really, to me, it's service orientation or manufacturing that would seem to be well accommodated by what you're doing for starters. The other thing is when you mention ADP,
well.
Thank you, Mike. That's a very good point. Nonprofits would be a very good place, and really you could, in a sense, track the volunteers very much like the contract people, which are highly dependent in the nonprofit world. The other question I would have, you mentioned about looking and talking to ADP and Paylocity. ADP has a marketplace. I would investigate to see what it would take for you to get into the marketplace and be listed, because many of their small customers may be just using ADP with the very basics of what they're doing. If they would see your system and say, my God, that's what I need on the front end of what I'm doing to send the payroll for ADP to process for me, this is the solution. So you're really appealing to the small market that ADP is already servicing for payroll and minimum HR, but you're providing all the other pieces of small business. So I would look into getting into the marketplace and what it would take to get listed there.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I just need a solid contact. So
I may be able to supply that, but anyone else in the audience that might have a good ADP contact, please let me know.
It's Carolyn. I reached out to you on LinkedIn, but
good.
I worked at ADP for 15 years. I'm happy to try to help.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, that's Carolyn Peer from UMAXA. So a longtime friend now, right? So any other feedbacks or anything else for Anjana? I will say this way. This is my ask of you. I am going to put down in my calendar to come back and ask you to come see us middle of next year. And my reasoning behind that is I suspect number of things would happen. More clients, more functionality, and perhaps a slightly different perspective on who you are, if you will.
Yes.
So we would look to and welcome you to come back in and talk to us one more time as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, folks? If not, we'll call it a day. And again, I appreciate everyone's involvement, Anjana and the entire TRC group. Thank you for joining us. There is a recording if you want to watch it again. Nobody's asked to binge watch all of these things, so I'm waiting for that. Netflix is looking at the series now.
I'm too busy watching The Walking Dead right now. Sorry.
Why don't you look at The Walking Live? No. Anyway, everyone stay well. We'll be talking soon. We have another one coming up next Thursday. Look for another invite coming through.
Thank you so much.
Well,
stay well, everyone.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.